English translation 156th contact. Sunday, 13th of December 1981, 23:14 hours.
Man, I must already say you venture rather far forward, my friend.
The women are indeed in Eva's office and are talking with each other.
That you visit me here in the lounge, however, I find that a bit dangerous.
I have my protective device with me, as you see.
Of course, but if someone comes in here?
Then I am away in a split second.
Logical, yes. Come, then sit down here with me. I will not turn off the television. Then no one will hear us talking.
Your idea is good, and you have it quite comfortable here.
I like it. I feel cozy here.
That is the right term for it. But now I did not come here to talk about these things with you.
I suppose so.
On last Monday, I did not have enough time to explain everything to you more precisely, which is why I would like to repeat everything to you again.
I know. You came just to tell me that the High Council has actually given its affirmative advice.
That is of correctness. The High Council is affirmative in its advice about all the concerns, as they were discussed between you and me on the 6th of December, regarding our proposals of the efforts toward Ingrid and Ferdinand. Therefore, we will fully exert ourselves, and therefore begin our work as soon as Ingrid begins the wait time for her registration in the center.
Then this will indeed be quite soon. But now, what about Elizabeth? I think that she should not be part of a friendship with Ingrid and Ferdinand.
She has a lot to change in herself, and has to become of another sense. Her instability and uncertainty will, nevertheless, certainly let her decide at this time. This saves us all sorts of effort and extra work. The better way is that, first of all, she tries to change herself according to your suggestions, in order to find a clear path for herself, and indeed one that is free from the clutches of Ingrid and Ferdinand, who want to bind Elizabeth to themselves by all means.
That is all right with me.
The concerns around Ingrid and Ferdinand and their children are also not simple. You must be clear to yourself about this.
Of course, it is not easy, and it will be a very hard time. You did indeed speak of 11 to 17 years that they need, in order to be changed for the better.
That is of correctness. But in order to take some of the burden off you, Ingrid should be the go-to person for Ferdinand, while also the children fall into her care.
By that, you mean that Ingrid is, so to speak, responsible for Ferdinand.
That is of correctness, but her responsibility will not be easy. We must also impose the condition on her that in the future she points Ferdinand in the right direction in terms of manual work, so that he learns to work properly.
You must explain that further, because I do not understand your speech.
I speak of the fact that Ferdinand is not exactly enthusiastic about regulated and hard-working manual activity. His mind is less focused on manual and profitable labor than on a leisurely life with light work and light effort.
You mean that he does not like to work? But, nevertheless, he has his own farm and manages this.
Have you ever observed him there?
How could I? I was never with him at his home.
Then you do not know it, of course, but I have thoroughly occupied myself with him. His mind is not geared toward a daily and exhausting work. With my daily 16 working hours, I am doing several times his daily activities, and in comparison with your daily performances, he disappears from the point of comparison. But this has been the case throughout his present life. It is therefore our condition that he corrects this deficiency as soon as possible and learns exhaustive manual activity. This is of urgent necessity for the later and following time. This will even be of vital importance if everything is thus regulated as to what we expect from him, and if he can be utilized for everything, for which we want to see him be utilized. But presently, he still stands at the null point, with the mistaken idea that he only has to shape his life spiritually and in a knowledge-based manner. In truth, however, this is an erroneous and dangerous view, for he can shape his life only spiritually and in a knowledge-based manner just as little as anyone else. So even you, and we also, cannot do. If you or we or the Earth humans want to develop spiritually and in a knowledge-based manner, then we can only do this if we also exercise our manual activity in the best form. This is, in fact, not only necessary for livelihood, but also for the right shaping of the teaching and its processing and effects. If a human being, and also we want to live and learn in accordance with the teaching, then we also have to perform sufficient manual activity. Otherwise, things will get confused and the teaching will become a failure.
That is known to me, and I myself know well enough that I can never learn properly if I am not manually active enough. I need hard work quite often, and that in a not too scarce form.
That is of correctness, because the greater the quantity and the difficulty levels of the learning material are, the greater is the need for physical activity. This is also the reason why you can often work for days and without sleep, without getting tired.
That is interesting, and I actually did not know that.
It is, however, actually so, as your body demands this activity in this measure, although your concentration also contributes a lot to your achievements. But this also means that you learn much more intensely than I do, which I must admit with shame. You also prove this over and over again.
But now, make a point.
My words correspond to the truth.
You make me wonder, since before I know that I worked a lot more than I learned.
That is of correctness, and that also has its reasons. Learning activity is enhanced by a prior learning of manual activity. In order to bring your learning capacity and your learning activity to the necessary state, it was only necessary for you to promote and train this through persistent and prolonged manual activity, which you have done, nevertheless, to an unusually large extent. And since you still continue to increase your learning capacity and your learning activity steadily, it is also necessary for you to exercise your manual activity in the necessary measure, which, together with your strength and concentration, makes you capable of performances that must appear to the Earth humans as animal-like or at least as unique.
You make me out to be a hero.
I am only telling you the truth.
Okay, that is enough. Otherwise, you will start another hymn of praise. But tell me, whether it is possible to calculate how many hours a human being has to work.
It really can be calculated, but for this, the evolutionary state of the human beings concerned must be known, which you are indeed able to calculate. But now, with the Earth humans, the rule is still given that they do not have to engage in any compensatory manual activity in order to maintain a uniformity with their consciousnesses. Rather, it is given that they must work manually in order to promote their material consciousness-related learning capacity and learning activity.
Thus, the same is also given when we, by and from ourselves, trouble ourselves around these things.
That is of correctness, except that in addition, the factor is to be taken into account that normal development has a maximum performance, but also a minimum performance. After the consideration of all factors, it arises that the Earth human being, at the minimum, must perform 2 hours of intensive manual activity in order to produce the norm of the consciousness-based stability. Nevertheless, This minimum case still does not appear on the Earth with anyone because the lowest rate is 5 hours. This rate, however, can only be found with people who have already attained a high norm in consciousness. The maximum performance, on the other hand, is 12 hours of daily manual activity. But the large average is 6 to 9 hours a day.
Aha, and how then is the time calculated in each case, which is regarded as effective study time?
This is determined in each case from the manual activity time, from which it is always calculated as 1/8 Taug, which must be performed as additional learning time, and indeed each day.
And how is it then, with those who work more than 12 hours in the maximum case or in general, when just the necessary time is exceeded and such?
In general, this only occurs among the Earth humans for the sake of material values or to indulge in a passion, both of which are wrong.
Aha, but we very often work much longer than necessary.
For your person, you have received exhaustive information. With the group members, however, this is in a much smaller measure, partly because they sacrifice their required hours of manual activity in order to increase their learning capacity and learning activity